Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Hobby Hut. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. I picked up this kit a little while ago, thought it would be a bit of a funny build, given the box art on the front with the almost flame style tribal pattern down the side. I thought I'd take my spin on it and do it in a maybe a matte black or a gloss black. Certainly wouldn't be the box art, but it's the Revell's 1/25 Hummer H2. It's got some big wheels on it. I say some funny decals which will not be going on this version. Now I started this kit a little while back. I've cut most things off of the sprue. I've done a dry fit, and that's about as far as I got, and it went back on the shelf for a little while. Now, given the current state of affairs, I've got a bit more time on my hands, and I thought, you know what, I'll dig this off the shelf and give this a bit of time that it probably deserves. So here we go. Now inside, as I said before, I have done some work on this kit before, so it's not brand new, but I did buy it brand new. So all I've done before is, as you can see on the body, it's had a little bit of prep work. I've just sanded out any panel lines that were on there. Not a bad mould. A couple of panel lines, which again I've just been sanded down, so it's nice and smooth for the paint finish. The other bits and pieces, again, I've done a dry fit on, which you'll see in a minute, but all in all, not too bad. The idea with this kit is going to be a black finish. I'm not sure yet whether it's going to be a gloss black or maybe like a satin black, with accents of gloss black or satin black alternatives like bumpers, door handles, door mirrors, etc. But we'll see when we get there. Now, as always, you've got the instruction manual. I'm going to flick through this so you can freeze the video if you want to have a bit more of a detailed look at that. But as always, you've got the running gear, the interior, you've got all the dashboard components, the lights, the clear window parts. So nothing too out of the ordinary, fairly simple to follow, fairly clear. Wheel assembly. The wheels have come in a chrome finish, which you'll see shortly. I'll probably strip those and paint them in a particular colour. I'm not really too keen on the finish with the chrome parts. They're okay, but it's just not to my taste really. As always, there's a decal sheet supplied with the kit. The obvious one is the long pattern that on the box art goes down the side of the car. It's not something that I'm going to be using on this occasion. And you've got the normal Hummer, the H2s, which are probably the only decals that I actually use on this kit, is the H2 sticker, which will be on the side of each side on the door and one on the boot. And then you've got a couple of number plates as well, depending on where you want it to be based. So this is one of the bags of the sprue cuttings that I've already done. So as you can see, I've done an assembly so far of the chassis, the running gear, the wheels. Again, it was just something that I started to build on a little while ago. I never got around to painting or priming, so it's cut straight off the sprue. And I say this is where I'm going to pick up the build and carry on, so it's not sat on the shelf, never to be seen again. As you can see, it's got all the normal components you'd expect to see. You've got the axles, there's the exhaust system running through to the back, the wheels and tyres have all been fitted. I say none of it's been glued in place, it's just a dry fit assembly. I'll need to pull all this apart and prime each component and paint each component individually before moving forward. As I said with the wheels, they're not a bad finish, but I don't think I'm going to use them as they are in their current state on the car. I'm going to probably strip these, prime this, and then probably do it with, I say, either a flat black or a gloss black finish. I'm not quite too sure yet, but it's definitely going to be some sort of black to match the body. And this is what it looks like with the body on. This second bag that I've got here is for some of the other components that again have been cut off the sprues. Nothing else has been done with them, just been cut off the sprues, obviously sanded down the edges where there might have been a little bit of material left. But this has just been taken off with a sharp blade and then sanded down to a nice smooth finish. Most of the components in this bag are for the interior, so you've got the floor, you've got the door panels each side, This kit comes with a few accessory bits, so it's got roof bars for the outside, it's got obviously the door handles that fit on the outside panels, it's got a subwoofer speaker system that will sit in the boot, which again is interesting. I'll probably go with that. I haven't decided yet, I'll see what it looks like. So there's a fair amount of detail with the kit. I haven't yet decided on what colour I might do the interior. I'd like to go black, but again, if it's a black body, black interior, probably going to be quite hard, or certainly on camera, to define the difference between what is the interior, what's the body. There's going to be no detail that's going to be picked up by the camera, so I might have to think of something different with that. Again, I haven't quite made up my mind yet, whether I go for a two-tone, maybe a black and red, maybe even go for a cream leather interior kind of look. Again, might work with the black. Haven't yet decided, so we'll see how that pans out a bit later on. So my next job is to cut any remaining components off of the sprues that I haven't done so already. For this, I'm just using some sprue cutters and then a file to take off the raised edges. What I'm going to do with this is just getting the bodywork prepped and ready for its coat of primer. I'm just cutting together the things like the door handles, the door mirrors, anything that really needs to be on the car before it's painted. I don't really want to paint these off the car. I want to do it all together. I am assembling the mirrors, but they will be sprayed separately to the body, just so that I don't get any dry patches created from the door mirrors being on the car. But as I say, I'm just going through and using some Tamiya extra thin cement to glue in the door handles, the fuel filling cap, and I say building up the door mirrors as well. One thing that's really important to do is just check the body for any raised areas, any imperfections, any scratches. Anything like this will show, especially with a colour like black, it will show any imperfections. So it's always worthwhile checking your model before you get to the primer and painting stage, just to eliminate any possible problems down the line. So again, if you do see anything like this, just take it down with a sanding stick to a nice smooth finish. Now, something that I choose to do with my models is quite often with something like this is just emphasize some of the panel lines. What I've got here is a Tamiya scribe. This is a sharp knife tool, which again I'll just drag down the existing panel lines on the model. It's just something that takes a little bit of the material out to make the panel lines a little bit deeper, which is something that I like to do. As you can see, it's just a case of running the blade down the existing panel line to take out some of that material to make them a little bit deeper. I'm not pressing hard, I'm just simply letting the tool do all the work. It's very easy to slip with one of these, and if you do slip, you will put a scratch into the area that you're working on, which will not be something that you want to do. Okay, so it's time to move into the spray booth. It's time for some primer. Now for this, I'm going to be using Ultimate Primer in grey from Ultimate Modeling Products. This is a water-based acrylic polyurethane self-leveling surface primer, which I've used many times before. Lays down really, really nice. This is all going to be sprayed through my Ultimate Apex airbrush at about 20 to 30 psi. What we're looking to achieve with our first coat of the primer is just a light covering. It's certainly not something that we're looking to get full coverage on in one first coat. So again, initially I'm just going to be going around the hard to get areas, underneath the wheel arches, around the door frames, certainly the window frames, and then over the main panels of the car with a light covering. Aside from the main body, I'm also going to be priming any of the other components that I need to be the same body colour, so the door mirrors, the boot lid, anything that's not attached to the car, like the bumpers that I do want to be in the same colour, will all be primed at the same time, just set aside separately to the body. So time to go back to the body. It's had about 10 minutes to dry. A little bit heavier this time. Again, I'm not necessarily looking for a wet finish, just a slightly heavier second coat now that we've got that base coat put down, but a little bit heavier this time round. Third and final coat going down now. Again, a little bit heavier this one, almost a slightly wet look to it as it's going on, just to make sure that we get really good coverage. Say it's had about 10 minutes in between the coats to dry. This should create a really nice finish once it's all dried on the body. Now for the main colour, I'm going to be using Tamiya's new lacquer paints. I've got LP5, which is the semi-gloss black with the Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder. This should give us a slightly glossier finish, but obviously we'll be going over the top of that with a 2K to give it that really nice shine. Now what I like to do when I'm first starting to apply the colour to the model is start in the really hard to get areas. So underneath the wheel arches is where I tend to start. I tend to do the bottom of the model and work my way up, making sure that I get into all the small areas in the bumpers, around the door frames, the window frames, in any detail parts that might be hiding. These bits can be very easily missed, so it's just something I've got into the habit of making sure that I get these bits first, and then once we start laying on the colour to the main panels, I know that I've got everything I need on the model itself. Now this is a little trick that I picked up a little while ago. I went through a stage of spilling paint everywhere when I was filling up my airbrush cup, and again I saw this online for another video somewhere that I picked up, where again if you pour the paint onto a cocktail stick or a stirrer, as it goes in, the paint will tend to then run down the stick into your airbrush cup rather than down the side of your airbrush and onto your workspace area. So again, it's a nice little tip that I picked up. Hopefully you guys might find that useful as well. Now it's had again a few minutes to dry, 5 to 10 minutes to dry with the first coat. Not bad coverage with the first coat. Again, we're not looking for that overall finish with the first coat, it's just a light first coat, and then second coat we can go back and apply it a bit heavier to get a bit more coverage. As always, I tend to start again with the underside of the body, all around the wheel arches, all in the window frames, just somewhere that I know that I'm going to get the coverage, and then I can start applying the main panels with their colour. Again with this I'm just going from left to right, from up to down, systematically, just making sure that I get a nice full coverage. This new Tamiya lacquer paint is superb anyway. I've not heard anything bad about it. Anyone that's ever used the new lacquer paint is very happy with the result. It sprays beautiful, especially through the Apex airbrush. It goes down really nice. It's much nicer than the Tamiya acrylic that I used to use before. So again, no disappointments with the new Tamiya lacquer paints. And as you can see, it's just a case of going around the body, making sure we're getting a nice even coverage with the Apex airbrush. Onto the third coat now. This will probably be the final coat. Again, as always, starting with the underside, moving onto the main area. And again, this time I'm looking to really make sure that I get full coverage, maybe a little bit heavy with the application this time, so a bit thicker, a bit heavier, more paint onto the body, just making sure I get that really nice full coverage that I'm looking for now this time. Again, certainly not looking for a wet finish, but certainly a sheen or a bit of a shine to it is what what I'm looking to achieve here anyway. Okay, so here we go. This is after 3 coats of the Tamiya lacquer LP5, and it's had a bit of time to dry, and I think it looks really good. It looks almost like a grey under the light, but that should darken once we put the 2K clear coat on. But before we do that, there's just a couple of decals that I want to apply. I'm only going to be using the H2 decals for the side and one on the rear. These have been cut out. They're going to be dipped into some warm water to release from the backing paper. And to set these in place, I'm using the microset solution. So just applying a small amount of the decal solution onto the area which we want the decal to sit. Remove the decal from the backing paper, just using my tweezers to put it in place. You can slide it off of the backing paper, but it's so small, this decal, again, it just went on with some tweezers. I'm now using a dry brush to remove any excess micro set solution. This should then hold the decal in position. Okay, so now that the decals have been set, we are ready for our 2K clear coat. For this, I used the 2K clear coat from Pro Range, which I got off eBay. I know a lot of other modelers that have used it or do use it. and again I get quite nice results from it myself. So yeah, it's very inexpensive. It's about £20 off of eBay, and for that you get your 2K, your hard nut, and some thinners as well. Now initially, like the paint, we want to apply a tack coat to the model. So the first coat is going to go down nice and light, certainly not looking to get a gloss finish from this in any way, shape or form. We just want to make sure that we get full coverage onto all the areas of the model with a tack coat. So nice and light, nice and smooth, just making sure we cover all areas of the model. And as before, I tend to start systematically going around all the hard to get to areas, so underneath the wheel arches, around the window frames first, and then I can concentrate on getting the larger panels, the roof and the bonnet afterwards. Now the biggest problem with 2K, as a lot of you may well know, is that it is sticky. So as you can see from the spray booth, I have laid down some paper towel and some water. This is just an attempt at stopping any dust. If you do get any dust into the 2K, it is going to stick to the model. At the early stages, you might have a chance at getting it out with some tweezers, but again, to limit any dust, any hair, any fibres that may get into the 2K, I've laid down some water to stop any, or as much as possible, any contaminants into the 2K. Now I'll let this dry for about 5 to 10 minutes just to flash off in between coats. Onto the second coat now. So again, looking to go a little bit heavier this time, but as always making sure that we start under the wheel arches in the hard to get to areas, and then we can concentrate on the main panels as we go through. So certainly applying it a little bit heavier this time, not too heavy, but we're looking to get a little bit more of a shine from the 2K on this coat second time round. As you can see, the black is starting to darken now. We're starting to get that shine that I would hope to see. So again, third coat now, applying the 2K a lot thicker, really opening up the airbrush and laying it down. The Pro range is quite forgiving for that. I have yet to get a run in my 2K, so the third coat, which will go down quite heavy, again really brings out the glossy shine. I've not yet, as I say, got a run in the 2K, so you can go quite heavy with this with the Pro range. I know different brands may vary, but with the Pro range, again, you can apply this quite heavy, really sort of open up the airbrush to get that onto the model and get that high shine that we're looking for from this 2K. So I think that's about done now. We've got the high shine all over the model in every area. This is now ready to go into our box, where it will stay for the next couple of days, where it will go to fully cure. Okay, so the 2K's had a couple of days to dry off. This is going to wrap up this video for now. The next video we're going to be concentrating on some wet and dry polishing, and then moving on with the rest of the build for the car. So hopefully we look forward to seeing you for that as well. As for now, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave a comment below. If you like this video, please hit the like. It will give me an indication that you guys are enjoying this content. But say, leave a comment, hit the like, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks very much, guys. See you in the next video.